Today, I invite you to listen to a conversation I'm having with my friend Carla Atherton, a health revolutionist. Hey, everybody. I'm doing an interview with my friend Carla Atherton. And I haven't done any live interviews ever. So I wrote myself a script and I'm going to start reading it now. It's apparently essential that I interview you, Carla, as a matter of course. I've heard others interview you, but I eagerly waited for my turn to exchange questions and ponderances with you, who I find to be so approachable and relatable. And now I have this wonderful opportunity to interview you right here, and we're going to post it wherever we post it, and hopefully people will learn more about you and the fact that you're a holistic health empowerment coach of families and other coaches and practitioners. And my intention is to shine a light on this refreshing new angle, this perspective of human health. So, I have my own ideas about how we do this, but I didn't want to do just too much talking here. I really wanted, obviously, for you to be participating in this conversation more than having everybody listen to me. But because I'm also passionate about reframing how we think about health, I have my own theories and philosophies, and that's how we met. So we met by happenstance, and we just started talking a whole lot and then connecting more and more. We started having all these great conversations, and we were like, wow, and I really wanted to work with you, partner with you in any way. And so this is how I want to partner with you. I want to have these conversations so that my friends and family can hear these conversations that we have.
Yes.
So you have more than a couple of programs online. And they're beautiful and they're wonderful and they're inspired, right? So you choose which one you wanted to maybe talk about first or present yourself now.
Well, first, Lori, I just want to say, okay, so I don't know if you introduced yourself, Lori Moore, and like I don't know if you did, but I have to say, when you're so humble and you're saying, well, I just want you to talk, but literally I want you to talk as much as you want to talk, because this is what led us here. Because our conversations are so deep and rich and juicy. Like, you are a brilliant and wonderful soul. And I was so excited when you're like, I want to interview you. I'm like, yeah, I want you to interview me because I want to have this conversation recorded. Because we missed like so much, like hours and hours of good stuff that I want to just share with people. And so thanks so much for doing that. I really appreciate the time you're taking. And I'm just really excited to let her rip. And I don't want to keep with this preamble either, with people going, okay, I get to the point when you guys can talk about. So, but I don't know to talk about my programs, I don't know. I kind of want to start with like talking about why I created them in the first place, because it's one thing to have something toward the end, but I could have created a program for people who had health issues, who had, mental health and emotional health, dis-ease. And I say dis-ease, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I never say disease, but, and like all through like why I wanted to do that. And some people do that because, I don't know, they want to make money, or because they're like, well, this is kind of a good way to put all this stuff into one place. Or this is a way that I can, I don't know, like run a business without having to do a whole bunch of one-on-one. And some people, there's a lot of different reasons why people, create programs. Some people are asked to, right? Say, okay, put all your whatever brain dump into that program because we want to learn from you. And like, or to be a little more academic or give people the opportunity to like get a certificate in something, right? So lots of reasons. But my reasons, I think, is like, I don't know. It was because it came out of a necessity, I think. And I think those necessities really came from my passions and what I was working through my whole life, whether it be something that was mental and emotional, whether or my body, lots of things that I went through, like with my own physical health, and then coming to that realization that it's not just body, mind, emotional, it's like, it's not that we can like put those all into different categories. It's literally that they're all the same. They're different manifestations.
Yeah.
It's like, so we want to pick this apart. We want to do this and we want to go to this. And it's like the whole elephant, the whole, like everybody's like, the one person's like, oh, this is a tail. And they're all blindfolded. This is a tail. This is a leg. This is a rump. This is a trunk. This is an ear. And then we take off the blindfold and we realize that's the whole thing. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like from the beginning, I had an inkling about this and things would turn me off. Like I started out my first degree in psychology. And I felt like this is missing the entire point of why I wanted to enter in psychology in the first place. And I don't want to diss the discipline. But I kind of am at the same time, because there's so much we can do in that academic setting to bring it to reality, right? Not just study and deduce and analyze and reduce. Mm-hmm. We want to put it all together. We want to remember. We want to talk about like the body and the emotional body and energy and how like our environment affects how we are psychologically. Like we don't want to sheave that off, because I was just listening to an interview. I'm sorry, I'm totally going off on a tangent, but I was listening to an interview yesterday. Okay. And it was like, I don't want to say who it was, but it was one super healthy dude. Okay. And he's just full of vim and vigor. You probably know who I'm talking about. And I did some of his practices this morning. Vim and vigor and just like the life, bring it on. Like he talks like this. And then he's talking to this other person. He's supposed to be interviewing him. The interview actually went the other way around, because this person he was supposed to be interviewing was really the one there needing to learn. He was actually the one needed to learn and to come to some kind of realization. And he's this clinical psychologist, like talking about like
the birth of the dragon. I'm sorry.
The what? Not like the what?
This movie, The Birth of the Dragon, about Bruce Lee.
Oh.
If you watch it and psychoanalyze it and see that the wiser guy is the one that like ends up learning from Bruce, who really probably should have gotten scolded and just told what was up. But anyway, so it's just great. You have to watch the movie. It's beautiful.
I'll watch it. I wrote it down. You see that? I got a pen at all times and I put it in my hair. But yeah, so so on the same lines, he thought he was interviewing him, but really it was like a session for this man. Clinical psychologist, like lots and lots of health problems, very, very involved in his story and his past and it almost went to the you could say victimhood, but I don't want to be, it's not a cruel thing. I've looked at my own victimhood and said, like, where are you being the victim, Carla? Where are you catastrophizing your life? Where are you like saying, outsourcing your control and saying, I can't control this. I feel like shit. I feel terrible. Well, what am I going to do about it? Either I live like that or I do something about it. Like, and it's not always doing. It's something, sometimes I was just like, stop thinking, get into your body and let it happen and trust. So I could see the difference, these two people. And I literally think like this all the time. I go, okay, here's this person and all these, what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing nature. I'm seeing trust. I'm seeing empowerment. I'm seeing, like being, allowing, true health, like mental harmony, stability, like bounce back, resilience. And then I see this other person and I'm like, I'm feeling for him, right? Where he's saying this, my wife almost died before, like I have all these things. I wake up every day in pain. But I have this book that I want to teach you how to live life. And I'm like, I don't think I'm buying that book, because I think that it's literally a big book to himself. How he's going to, like what he needs to do, but he hasn't quite made it. He hasn't quite gotten there yet. So I'm seeing disempowerment. I'm seeing medicalization. I'm seeing outsourcing. But I'm also seeing a lot of like doing, analyzing, why isn't this working? But not actually experiencing, dropping into his body, not running away. And I love what I've heard. I've heard this said before, and I'm going to tell you things that I've heard from other people, and I will have no idea where I got it from. Okay, so don't anybody out there is like, I said that first. You know, okay, props to you, but I have no idea. I
Probably
literally
an email
researched really.
address. It's probably a URL already. So let's see.
Yeah, well, probably is, right? So it's like even the first person you heard it from is not the first person who said it. But I heard someone say, now I'm forgetting what it was. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
It's really my fault. Okay, let's go
But it was
back.
like, hey, it's gonna come to me. Okay, so I've got this person with all these attributes. Then I've got this other one that, you know, like, it's like medicalization, outsourcing, you know, like feeling like a victim, even though you feel like you're doing something. Yeah, like trying to, like, but it's that mindset of, we need to recognize our pain, sure. But why? And it's not so that we can keep living a story, because we often get into this health state and we literally, nobody believed us or nobody could help us. And then we fight so hard for it that we get lost in the fight and we don't actually get better, because we're actually getting something from that fight. We feel more like we're doing something, that we're getting validation, that, you know, people are looking to us like we are this stoic, we are this, you know, warrior. But like, so if we say there's no more battle, what are we then?
Right, like, you identify with it and you have to move to the next chapter, but you didn't plan the next chapter really. So, or maybe you did, but you were just so used to this chapter. Everything that associates with this chapter, the breakfast that you're waking up to eat, the appointments that you might be going to, the clothes that you might be wearing, the blog that you might be writing.
The person you might want to be mad at and blame, and, you know, like those things we want to hang on to, all that, you know, like, I don't know about all of us, but I think there's that tendency to. Oh, and I was going to say with that this is what I was thinking about when I said that there's someone who said this. It could have been Russell Brand, actually, like somebody. Anyway, so we suffer when we resist. And so I felt so much resistance in this person who was like talking about his story and, you know, all this stuff. All I felt was resistance. And with the other person, the first person nature, la la la, you know, like he wasn't he was like, I'm all in, baby. I'm all in. Bring it on. Even if it's painful, I'm going to transmute that pain into energy. I'm going to transmute that discomfort into empowerment. I'm going to like lean into all this stuff. And the other one was like, I'm doing this because I don't want to feel this way anymore. I'm doing this because I'm afraid of the pain. I'm doing this so I can shut it up. And there's no movement in that. There's no, like, literally there's no healing in that. The resistance comes suffering with and it's like, that's one of these shifts, or one of these things that was an aha. And we have these things like one phrase can go, you know, change everything. It's like taking off the beer goggles or something like that and seeing the truth, you know, or like and I call it like wiping off the glass and maybe just taking that off like entirely. And so you see how free this first person was, and you can hear him, his freedom. And and then you also see this other person who is unwittingly creating this prison for himself in his body, in his mind, trying to analyze and deduce and not allowing himself to actually feel the change. Do the practices. Yeah, he's going through the motions, but he's not feeling the change because he hasn't made that shift over yet. So when you talk about my programs, okay, I'm gonna come full circle, good for me. You know, that's what I was doing. It's like I was realizing that all this stuff that I was doing throughout this last 27 years, right, is figuring out that this is where it's at. It's not about this hard-edged, you know, like dump everything you ever learned to begin with, and like, you know, like this major, like abrupt change. I mean, change is a good word, but I would rather use the word shift because it sounds subtle, but it's profound. It is like, again, like I said, moving from like something like a concept of, you know, I can into I will. Like, okay, so let's move that shift. I can do this. Oh, first you need to go from like I can't to I can. And then you're like, I can to I will. So it's like, ooh, there's like an excitement for the future, but that's not enough. You need to go from I will to I am.
Mm.
Like literally will never come. That is tomorrow. That's later. That's Monday. That's January 1st. That's, after I make my, like pledges to myself. No, like it's now, this is now. So I am. And so if we say I will be healed, that's a step in the right direction.
And
But
then
I
we have
am
to
healed.
define the word heal. We get to start
Right.
our
True.
words that
True.
we use because we're so captivated by our language. And so,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm just going to drop this here because it came up and I was like, don't do it, Lori, don't do it. And it's going to happen anyway. So you were talking about resistance, and I had like an epiphany like 2 months ago over this one word in particular. And it was just so profound to me. So the word intention, so you have an intent, right? But
Yeah.
intention, which is not a bad thing, but we as human beings have an intention, but these words weren't put together accidentally. So when you have a thought, there's tension between what you desire to happen and the fact that it has not yet. So there is this state of matter, really, and there's tension between the two. So this is actually like a function of existence, is to neutralize that tension between what you want and it being there already. And so I'm not judging that word, it just is. Like, can't we see how that's put together for that reason?
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And this is again part of my history. And when I hear people that seem to be in very different disciplines, like, the body, like the person who's really talking about the body and like pushing the body to its limits, or the person who's talking like more, like about thoughts and ideas, and like and different personalities of people that I learn a lot from. Like I'm like, I could listen to them talk all day. And one thing they have in common, and you would never know why. I mean, most of them don't have a background in linguistics or poetry or whatever, but it's something in their awareness that tells them to pay attention to the wording and how, because it's like the language we use is like, it defines in some ways, right?
Everything
How we live, how we see things, how we interpret it. Like I said, the lens through which we look at life. So I took linguistics since my early psych days.
I did too, and I dropped out. It was horrible. But
I was horribly boring. It was horribly boring. I the worst prof. And I shouldn't pick on people. She just wasn't passionate, okay? Like, I didn't have okay, how about that? I did not have a passionate prof. We didn't learn it in a way that was real. This is what I mean by sheaving off the academics from the reality. Like, people like Joe Dispenza saying, we have science for this. We can't take the science out. We want to know what that is. Like, that's great. But the truth is, this is the experience. This is really, like, we can feel it. We can intuit it. We can pick it apart and say this, this, and this, which is they're trying to do that so that they can gain credibility and have people understand why it's important to meditate, for instance. But, like, so when we took this linguistics class, it was like, blah blah blah, and same thing. Actually, Latin was really fun. Like, Latin was fun. So that's because I had like a really fun prof. We were able to sit out in the middle of the grass, like in the summer. I took it in a couple of summer classes in Latin, and I brought my son, who was like, I think at the time he was 3 years old. So I brought him, and he got to experience that kind of like environment. But I still was like, piece by piece. And actually, but that now, if I was to retake that class, I should dig out my old books. And the understanding is so different for me now, because now I've added on all of these different awarenesses. This whole concept of shifting just kind of was birthed from all of that. And I'm also a poet. I'm a writer. Everything I did, even academically, always had an element of creativity to it. So I wrote about body theory and motherhood and childbirth. Yeah, it was just
like, so with health empowerment, the words that we use, the one major shift that people would do well to experience is paying attention to every word they use to describe themselves and their intentions and actions, and try to use new phrases every day just for the fun of it. But something I do with my little ones, if you use a negative word at the beginning of a sentence, they're triggered for the rest of that sentence. So let's say I don't want my 2-year-old to have a thing to eat right now. I'm not going to say, no, you can't have that. I'm going to say, I will give that to you later. Right.
Oh, nice.
So, but I have to keep all my other children from also speaking that way to each other. Yeah. But words, like I was telling my kids too, like, let's say I pick up on a mood or something, or even like my husband, and I'll say, right, you're being like this, and I didn't even say anything. I'm like, well, everything is communication. Not saying something is also saying something. That's why it's hard for me to keep my mouth shut, because even when my mouth is shut, I'm still saying something, which is even maybe more powerful and way less accurate than if I just opened it. So with my, but when we, okay, I'm not going to go there. Okay. So I think I explained that well enough, but, you know, language is every word is a filament that carries this energy of defining who we are. And then that layers on like every cell of our body. We have to pay attention to our words, and we have to now identify as a culture which ones are not serving us, because some words are plunked in there and they are in themselves toxins, because they're not right, they're not accurate, they're not pegged to anything that's even real. And so even the word heal, it's fine enough for now. We're trying to say to each other when we're saying that word, but if we just for one moment removed it and tried to understand what we were going through without thinking it's a healing thing, right? I don't even have an answer for that. So this is my in the present moment, try to like understand this, like how would we feel about that? You know, what does that mean then? But there's other words, and like I know you have like an arsenal of them, and they're an arsenal. These words, like germ, I like weed, for example, weed. Don't say weed around me, okay?
I know. They're all literally all of them are, well, they're all plants, and they all have phytochemistry that is important. They all have intelligence. Yeah. Most of the ones you're talking about weed in the garden? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Like what? Some plants are good and some are bad. Are you for real? Like that doesn't make any sense. Like it's an herb, herbalicious, invasive. Don't do that to me either. Homeostasis desiring plant over there. You know, all this kudzu that's trying to creep over and add protein to our bodies, because we're all seriously, I know we don't take in protein that way, but never mind. It's trying to help us. I know it doesn't look the way you want it to look, but take the information in. I'm not saying you have to let your whole property get overrun with kudzu, but if we see that, not separate the ear from the foot and compartmentalize all these different sections of nature and reality, and see that the kudzu is here to create balance for in some other way. And every part of that plant is usable and edible, by the way. Well, and sometimes it's because it's healing the terrain. Sometimes it needs to be, you know, I guess mineralized, you know, and some plants, like even a forest fire, there's a reason. I mean, like for that, it clears out naturally, and the new stuff comes. Yep. And so this is the same thing with the body. It's all, that's why we can't separate any of that. We learn so much from nature. Like this is why this man was so much healthier than this one, because nature was like, that's it, top of the list, nature. And the other one was unnatural, taking everything out of it, analyzing it out, you know, out of context, out of like the whole system that is our very being, existence on this planet. And maybe we want to go, wee-hee, we can say the universe, right? But it's the same with the body, you know, like this is also, it's like some things I talk about a lot and teach is that everything's a system. It's like it's part of the system. I shouldn't say system. That's not even. It's part of the whole, and it all works together, and it needs to work together. And so if you go in and you kill all the deer because they're eating all the, you know, or no, actually no. Here we go. You kill all the wolves or the coyotes because they're killing the deer. But then you got overrun with deer and they eat all the plants, and then you don't have enough plants for your survival. Like. Nature is way more intelligent than we are, and I think that the pursuit of knowledge is a very exciting pursuit, but we will never know all of it, and to assume that we use that knowledge to manipulate nature that we think we know, we will never be able to do that, and we shouldn't even try. So there's this, like, I love learning, but at the same time as me learning, I'm like, cool, I'm curious and whatever, I'm going to try and apply that and this and whatever, but I'm still like, okay, that's enough. I'm just gonna allow it. I'm gonna sit there literally not learning anything, but I'm gonna experience it. I'm gonna sit there on my grass. I'm gonna read a book. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna watch the cats, like if people ever see any posts that I make way too many cat posts, but it's because I learn so much and I just get to experience. I watch the clouds. I experience the gratitude. I don't just so I think that it's cool that we can understand why these things make us better, feel better, not better, but feel alive. It's not even that we're feeling good or bad emotions. There's no such thing. Literally, some are more difficult, can be considered painful, some are, like fear-based or whatever, but there's no good or bad. But what makes me feel alive, right? It's like I can figure out what might be the biochemistry, and I can tell you that. I can say what, dopamine, serotonin, I can say what glutamate does, and I can say what GABA does in the brain. I can tell you about all the different brainwave states.
And how every living organism uses those chemicals.
Yes, but we can know that.
But like marijuana has, whatever, induces that chemical occurrence, right?
Yeah.
Techie, you need to translate for me. But if you apparently if you plant this plant in your garden, it gives your the other plants in your garden get high, I guess, but not get high.
Right.
Feel good and communicate better.
Yeah. Well, they share an energy. It's the same thing with the human body. It's like anything that you literally you can share. Like you and I, we are sharing energy, even though we're not even in the same, supposedly not even in the same space. But we are. There's not really I totally am not going to go down that road. But so there's heart resonance, there's brain, there's mirroring happening. There's the plants communicate. It's not like with words. We're talking about words. We love this whole shifting. But it's like we communicate on all kinds of different levels. So again, modern, if you're talking about science in the real sense, not like this dogmatic, finalized, we know this and that's bull. That science is literally the exploration. But if we want to understand that, it's really exciting to see what's happening. But even if we don't, it's happening. We don't have to actually even know. Even if we don't, it's happening. All we need to know is how to do that, what our entry points are. And it all comes down to the breath. It comes down to being able to be still at some moments. It's about self-awareness, observation.
And
it's about being fully present. And it right. So that's where we can't outsource and we can't usurp nature. We're part of it. And the more that we are, the more we're like this guy who's just oh man, I'm unstoppable. I'm Superman. And then this guy who is literally a victim to anything that happens in his environment around him, right? This one's affecting his environment. This one's affected by his environment, right? This one is living in his power. This one is highly disempowered and trying to find out how to control everything. Right? So yeah, you're gonna say, Lori, go ahead.
Oh, it was about food. Never mind. We'll leave it back there. I was thinking you were making this list, and so food also affects our feelings, those in the moment. So meditation can, but so can food. So have you ever eaten something and suddenly you were agitated? That was food talking through you.
Yeah. It's the wrong energy. It's the wrong energy. You hit the wrong chord, and there's disharmony in the body. You hit the wrong chord, and you want to. So maybe the word isn't healing, and I've been playing with that word too. Is in accordance, or is it coherent? If we're returning back to it's not even necessarily just balance, but it's harmony. It's everything. It's working tickety-boo. It's homeostasis, right? We want to keep, and so that's why we work those muscles, right? That's what we try to, do all those hermetic stress. We challenge ourselves. we face death, you know, oh gosh, I could go on a tangent about what we're missing if we don't actually do these traditional, you know, practices that happened in these, you know, these cultures where they would like lead
Let
their
me
youth
interrupt you.
through these really like intense, you
You
know,
know,
sessions because they showed them their power that they would never have learned otherwise. So we don't give that to our kids. Like,
yeah,
in
this is
this
about you.
present
I
culture.
gotta say this. So you have, I saw this up and coming. I'm scrolling through your site. You have up and coming. Where did it go, Carla? This future program.
Carla Atherton inspired. Carla Atherton inspired. Go to workshops. I know what you're talking about. I know
Here.
exactly what you're talking about.
Here,
Workshops
I
and
had it on a
yeah.
tab, for crying out loud. Program's coming soon.
Yeah, but if you're like me, you've got like 50 tabs open.
Yeah. Returning to tradition, rites of passage, mentorship, and stewardship to reclaim our children from the pop culture trance.
Mhm.
Returning to tradition, rites of
Yep.
passage, mentorship, and stewardship to reclaim our children from the pop culture trance. This is your program that's coming soon. How soon, Carla?
Yeah, that's like, I think that those that you see on that list are going to come monthly. So I'm going to try. So right now, I'm just focusing on the Take Back Your Health and Power program. And then, and also the coaches addition to that. So we go through the program. It's a very experiential program. And then the coaches who like are, you know, people in the profession and want to be a better coach, because a lot of us are running around saying, you know, I feel like I have imposter syndrome because I'm just as, you know, like not as, I'm feeling like I'm out of harmony as much as anybody else who's coming to me. And I'm like, that's not what we can do. I mean, yeah, we can say, you know, I kind of understand diet now and I can coach you in that area. But if we're talking full on robust health and you're not feeling healthy, that's not a judgment. Like to say that, you know, like that maybe you're not ready to actually really get down with the coaching, because what we need to cultivate is our own inner strength. And then what happens is, instead of us holding all this stuff up, like we were talking about yesterday, Lori, I have a leadership model where there's like this big world on you, like Atlas, and you're like, I'm taking on the world, I'm doing all this for you, but like literally you're stuck there forever, and it's like a curse. Like Atlas is literally cursed, and like to hold all this stuff up, and then, but really we want to move to what I know is Aubrey Marcus. Okay, I could actually give props to him, who I first heard this from. I don't know if it's originated from him, but he said, become the living invitation. And so this is what we can do, and it's so much more sustainable for us to really work on our own stuff. And you literally exude that, and so it actually comes out for me. That's come out with I called it a shift method, but that's because, like, you know, people need to know what is that, because it's so new, and it's like, oh, it's a way to go about doing something. Oh, it's a way to be. Okay, so I get that. I couldn't just say, let's take the shift, and like, you expect people to get that, because it's like, again, communication, language. But this is where, with our kids, like, this is something that's super important to me, because this shift must, and I love the word must. That was another person I was listening to, and I love gathering all this information from these juicy, awesome, brilliant people, and everybody is. Must, instead of shouldn't all over ourselves, because there's judgment there. Have to, which is like a command, and like people go like, I don't have to do anything you tell me. We must. There's passion in that. We must do this for our kids, so that we are not this holding everything up, trying to control everything, not even like trusting the world, fearful, right? To this point where it's like, I got this, and so do you, kiddo. And you know what? I'm going to show you what you're made of by you seeing that and experiencing that for yourself. I'm not just going to tell you, it's all good, honey, you're smart, you're bright. Well, they need to be challenged. They need hermetic stress. They need to have, and hermetic means a little nudge in that, like a little bit of discomfort. This is kind of cold, and the next time you get in the cold, you're not feeling it as much. You're not afraid to go into the cold because of you're expecting it to make you uncomfortable. You're kind of leaning into the discomfort. Our kids need to have that. And then they like, and the trust that, yeah, you're going to come out of this the other side. And I'm so excited to see what you've discovered about yourself. And they come out of those experiences just like, You know, when they say you have these like, you know, like the boy turns into the man after he gets back, you know, or the girl turns into a woman after they come back from the bush, and they survived all, you know, this 2 nights on their own, and you know, like whatever those things
We
are,
should
doesn't have to
bring
be
that
bad.
back.
I am not joking. We should. I'm not even kidding. In some way, I mean, there are people who do these things because, for me, plopping in there as a coach. Okay, you can call me a coach, but this is some of what I want people that I work with to experience, and it can come in many different forms, many different, you know, ceremonies or discussions. Even, you know, we used to have a moon circle group, and it kind of fell apart because everybody got, you know, had these different schedules, and it was kind of sad. And I tried to hang on to it for as long as I could, but my daughters and I and our friends and their daughters would get together every moon, every change of the moon. We did full moon, but I actually, some people do it on the new moon. And it was a monthly meeting, and it was like a gathering, and we would do something that would be about womanhood, about embracing their femininity, about embracing the feminine. And we talked about breast health once. I did a writing session, because that's my jam, right? Like writing, I do all kinds of workshops since I probably led my first workshop when I was 20 years old. And now they've moved into these like mountains rise from earthquakes, hero's journey, finding your inner genius kind of thing, which is hugely healing as well. So we did like a writing session, and we actually have a book. I just picked up that book, so it fell off my shelf yesterday, and I just put it back in my shelf. We made like a book with moms and daughters writing about each other. Oh. And then they actually, like, it was so great. And then we did all kinds of stuff, you know, like, and we did like a little, like, we'd start each ceremony with our lineage. I am Carla, daughter of Marie Anne, granddaughter of Kathleen, great granddaughter of, I can't remember now, her name was Blanche, I think. I don't know, that's my grandmother's middle name, but we'd go back and back. There were a couple of people there that we were like, whatever. They went back like 20, you know, 20 different of their ancestors, right? So it was an acknowledgement of where we came from. It was an acknowledgement of our inner power. It was an acknowledgement of our femininity. It was, and I often said to my husband, like, you men, you have to do this for your boys, you guys. And it's not always men, women, whatever, but like, you know, there's always like definitely crossover. And I have this beautiful relationship with my son, you know, so there's like all this, but like even just highlighting different parts and different, the beauty of all of this genius, you know, that's like from all these different aspects of ourselves, right? I mean, it could have been all kinds of different things that we were gathering for, but that was one thing that we did that I feel like I think will always be part of them, and always be part, because right now, what do we get from pop culture? If we want to talk about the difference between that and our pop culture trance, periods are weird. They're gross. We don't want to know that you menstruate. We don't value the feminine. Boys and girls are so different. We can't respect each other. You know, like it's like, what would you call it? It's like, I don't know what you would call it. It's almost like it's dis-ease, like it's disharmony. It's untrue. It's actually untrue. Yeah. So that's part of like the whole thing that we'd be talking about in that program. And I have lots of different ones that, you know, thoughts like that. Like, for another one, I'm not going to go into it all, but like talking about video games and gaming and that whole culture that has been created around that. But and I have another theory about that, but I'm gonna let you jump in.
Well, it really spoke to me for many reasons. And then I have to say that I too took my daughters out several times for moonlight tea parties.
Yes.
We ate Hostess white round cakes. But it was fun. I'd wake them up and we'd crawl out there, and there was like a blanket and some tea, and we called it moon tea, and it was, yeah.
The only way to level that one up is to actually make the cakes and not buy
that's just it. Like, what was I like bean cakes? Like, I mean, that would have been lovely, but I didn't. And they don't have.
Yeah, and it was just as beautiful. Time. That's right. That's right. You like, because you can't worry about that all the time too, because then you can become dogmatic and you're always feeling guilty about everything you do and everything you eat. And
Yeah.
totally get you. Love it. I love it.
Also along the lines of returning to tradition, rites of passage, and just ceremony is this is where I guess I have to mention that I'm writing a book called A Beautiful Birthright. And
Right.
you know that I had my last two children, birthed them at home, unassisted, just my husband and I, intentionally. And it's important also to talk about the intentionality of the conception part of birth and
Yes.
getting I am very passionate about the whole conceiving, birthing process. And see, I love your tone, okay? And this is why I've attached myself to you like a barnacle, because I want
Okay.
to glean from you your tone. Because right now I'm visibly restraining my tone, which I'm trying to shift from, which you're when you want to help someone come into new health, you're like, look how wonderful you are, you got this. And I'm like, stop listening to that and that and that and that. And just turn
Got it.
that off. Forget what you knew about that. Just don't look over there. And so your angle is like, just, it's okay, we're here right now. This is good. We're good. You're awesome. And that's all they really need to know, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just coming
It
at
but
it
it is.
positive. You come at it so non-judgmentally, which is like essential in this whole process. Do you know, and I know you know, it's a rhetorical question. Do you know
Okay.
how much guilt, the feeling of guilt, how damaging that is and has been on everybody?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's
I-
not functional for like maybe in the moment, but then it's like done. We learned it, we felt it, we changed it, it's gone. Guilt. I mean, there's entire religions built around it, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And how
And who wants to be motivated by guilt? I'd rather be motivated by inspiration.
So while I am busy like trying to play whack-a-mole with all the things that I don't want people to listen to, you're saying it's just a totally different approach. And
Okay.
so let's just say I'm bitter and like angry, really. And sometimes. So that's this person over here. And this other person wakes up and feels hopeful and spacious and good about myself. I did the right thing. I did a good thing. The project I'm doing right now is the right one to do. It's coming in the right order. And I didn't have to think about it for it to do that. It just was. So that's where I feel like in flow. And when I do that, everybody around me magically seems to feel better too.
Yeah.
So that's important, right?
Yeah.
So with this book that I'm working on, I'm talking about my experience with these births and why these birth calamities that seem to occur are distinctly attached to people really not paying attention to the whole process, what they should be doing before they conceive, while they're carrying, and then in the moment. And there's just a lot to talk about there. And I don't talk about that much. I just talk about my experience and my feelings and just sharing it. So that really speaks to me that you're doing like a whole program on returning to tradition, rites of passage, learning from our ancestors. So important.
I know. Okay. And I've got something I'm completely hearing what you're saying. And I have to say that it's like what you said to your kids, or trying to get your kids how to do, like you're revisiting, like, oh, how am I communicating to my kids? Don't start. Don't start. Like, try not to start. Okay. Well, how are you going to start that sentence, without the negative? And so this is what the same thing is with this conversation about health. Starting with the negative it's not going to get you anywhere, because it actually, again, it's like using the word should not, like you shouldn't, this is what you should do, like, like all this, that you're just going to get resistance because, and
they
rightfully
shame
so,
them.
right? It's shaming, all that. And that's actually what we do as parents quite often. And not just parents, but coaches, doctors, lawyers, whatever, like teachers, saying like shaming and saying, like, it's like we're coercing, we're shaming, we are blaming, but this is what we're modeling, and then we expect people not to do, like, to live their lives in that way. We're creating fear. So these things, like even people who think they're doing the best thing they could possibly do by saying, you got to eat well. If you don't eat well, you're going to get blah, blah, blah. Right? Instead of saying, like, let's go for a picnic, like, look at these recipes. I made this today. This was like the most beautiful thing. I said, this was like a thank you to my body. My body's not a garbage can. Like, I'm not a garbage can. Why would I eat that? Like, so it's like, it's rather than saying you shouldn't, you can't, you're going to get sick, you're going to die. Instead of saying that's like, what do you want? I want to feel good. Okay, let's eat this. Let's feel good. Let's fill our cups, so it's just overflowing, and you just have this endless energy because you want to be an athlete, you want to think well, you want to go to university, you want to be an artist or whatever you want to do in your life. You're like, I just made a step in that direction. So this is the shift. And Lori, I had to make that shift myself first before I could actually help anyone, because I was doing the same thing. And I actually want to relook at my book to, like, something I really wanted to talk about in relation to this whole, like, approach we have to literally communicating with people. And, it's not about getting people to do what we want. Like, I think that the whole thing that I've been going through, like, over all these years, like, it involves so many different aspects. First, how to communicate with people. So I looked at, like, all kinds of things, like compassionate communication, nonviolent communication, even, like, more recently, like, things like circling and, pond listening and, compassionate inquiry, like, things like that, about how to communicate to actually get. And it's not just about listening. It is a huge part of it, but it's also understanding what it is you want to say and where your motivation lies for why you're saying it. So if we're coming at this with fear, our own fear, mistrust, like, we see the world as an antagonistic place. We see, like, there's chemicals in our environment. There's all this crap in our food. Our food supply is terrible. It's Frankenfoods. It's, and this is not to say that that doesn't exist. Of course it does. But when we can look at it as, we've got this, we are knowledgeable enough to know what decisions we can make that are, conducive to our aims of health, happiness, and freedom, whatever those things are, like basic human, everybody wants this, everybody wants that, to feel alive and to experience life without hindrance or feeling like, we have no choice in the matter or we're disempowered, right? So that's why I kind of, like, hook onto the word empowerment, because that's why I shifted myself from health consulting, right, which is like, yeah, I do that, but it's more like what I really do is encourage people to cultivate their own empowerment. Otherwise, we have codependent relationships. I used to be codependent, man. Like, I grew up in in an environment that a lot of people relied on me, and then my self-worth came from their reliance on me. So it's like, but wait, I don't really want people reliant on me. I don't want to be exhausted every day doing the things for people that they could do for themselves. And then at the same time, they're disempowered because they're they're outsourcing their own health. So we come back to those traditions, right? Our kids, right? What can you do for yourself? I'm not doing that for you. And I used to do a lot of things to make life easier. You go to, like, the archetypes, like somebody like Carolyn Mice would talk about. And then she talks about the prostitute, and it's like, what? You're the prostitute? I'm like, yeah, I'm actually the prostitute. Because I would do things that I didn't want to do to get an end result that I wanted. So do all this stuff for everybody because I don't want to, deal with the, having to do it later or it piling up, or I didn't want the mess or whatever it was. Or I didn't want them to fail. I didn't want them to not listen to me. I wanted them to have the experience of feeling better. So I would do it for them.
Or any criticism for not showing up or not doing
it.
Like, if anyone's going to get called out for not doing a thing around here, it's not going to be me.
Right.
Is that right?
True. That would be maybe sometimes. But it was more like to avoid any kind of conflict or pain.
Yeah.
And not just mine, other people's. I'm like, you don't even realize how important this is for you to do it, so I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to make these decisions for you. I'm going to coerce you into doing it. I'm going to cajole. I'm going to convince. And this is where we coaches can fail miserably. And I'm going to use the word fail. I'm going to say that because this is where people don't take control of their own. And so we're trying to say, take control of your health. Yeah, you can move out of the medical model. You don't need a pill. But then at the same time, you do need someone else to do this for you because you actually really can't. Like, we're giving this terrible message that's not congruent with what we actually are there to do. Mm-hmm. So we got to look at that. And so I had to look at that for myself and say, how did that, like, there's a couple things I could look at in my own parenting, for instance, and like health related, mental health, physical health, that I felt like, and I did a lot of things, quote unquote, right, I guess you could say. I did a lot of things that really nurtured I feel like I'm like a good mom. I really, really am a good mom because I love so big and I listen and yet, okay, I allowed fear and my own mistrust of my world to move me into cajoling, convincing, manipulating, even though I thought the end result was positive. I just want you to be happy, guys. I just want you to be healthy. I just want you to be whole people. But at the same time, some of the things I was doing was fear-based. So I started the sentence, like you said, Lori, with don't. And I started it with you can't and you shouldn't.
Know why?
And anytime they did, one second. Anytime they did, they would get the message that they failed, that they didn't measure up, that they should have done this, even though they didn't want to. And maybe their path was the better path because it was theirs, right? And that's a tough one when you got like a 16-year-old and don't you be jumping off that cliff. That's not safe. Right? Like, don't just because so-and-so jumped off the cliff, don't you be, so there's a dance there, but it can be had when you, again, like you said, you don't, and I'm going to do it. Again, that's a beautiful shift from, instead of starting the sentence with don't, you start it with, what can we do? What do we want? What do we want to do? I had to make that shift myself.
We could ask, instead of saying don't, we could say, have you thought about these possible outcomes? So to play like devil's advocate,
okay,
unless we are have superpowers, like comic book style superpowers, okay?
Well, we kind of do, but sure.
It's true that. Okay, but I lack a superpower currently, which is like always saying and doing the right thing to my like teenage kids. And so when I defend my actions, even to them, because I'm constantly psychoanalyzing myself to them. I'm like, okay, right. I know I'm manipulating you right now, but that's because I'm trying to compete with all the manipulation and brainwashing that's bombarding you from this thing and that other thing and that other message. So I can't think of something really quick right now to help us, like help you make this decision for yourself and just also be pleasant and also manage my 6 jobs and, whatever. Like I just fail at doing all those things perfectly. Right. So in those moments, I'm like, don't do that. Don't listen to them. Yep. It's bad. Yeah. And then the conversation is bigger, broader than that. But then I have this disclaimer and I say, okay, look, the reason why I'm coming at you like this is because they're coming at you like that. I have to compete. They are coming at you with all these messages and it's really convincing. And they packaged it in this like friendly, childlike, friendly packaging. I mean, it's on Cartoon Network. It's on the videos and the music videos, and it has like little bells and everything that make it sound like it's for you, but it's sinister. So see, I go the negative route. But I tell them, like, look, I know I'm manipulating you, but it's because I'm just trying to.
Yeah, but like I said, it's for we feel like it's for a good reason. But again, like we're given the fish when we need to teach them to fish. So what are ways that we're doing? We're thinking for them, and to some extent, when they're younger, we kind of need to do that. And they literally take in everything we say, and you don't have to convince or cajole or manipulate. You just tell them, okay, like that isn't good for you. We're gonna buy this, like we're not gonna go to McDonald's. We're gonna go to the grocery store and buy some, some fixins and make it ourselves at home. And like, yeah, and there's to some extent you can do that with your older children or people in your community or your family, like you, whatever. But if it's like the point, the fishing part, right? Like teaching the fish is more about getting out of the way, but allowing them to think critically. So it's like an encouragement of like, you ask more questions than you answer at some point in this development, right? Like you ask more questions and to look, and you'll say like, whoa, this is what I'm seeing. Do you see that? Instead of ramming it down their throat, because trust me, again, I know that desire to do that, because you can say, like, when someone is just learning something and it's like you have to be patient with their process, because it's really, really hard to wait for them to come to that revelation. And there was an instance actually I'm thinking about with one of my own kids, like it wasn't even that long ago. And it was like something that they were doing that was like, I knew it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. But I'm going to be patient with this process. I'm going to hold space and I'm going to keep talking. We're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep, and I'm going to keep listening more than I'm talking. But still being like, well, what do you think of that? Or like, and having that mind open to observing what's going on around them. And she literally came to this conclusion that, I mean, yeah, that's nice and in a nice little bow. And it was the same kind of conclusion I'd come to. But I feel that it was the conclusion that was the most healthy for her. And so it was like, if it hadn't been, I would have had to do my own looking at my own self and say, is this really the best for that kid? Or this is about me? And so we're simultaneously doing that. Critical thinking, I think, was the most, like, we read tons as my kids grew up, all kinds of stuff. And literature, but also like fun stuff. They were exposed to lots of ideas. We went to plays, and we always unpacked stuff that we would see. This is also my background too, that I was able to do this for myself. Even having a background taking women's and gender studies, or like, all these different humanities courses that I did academically, but literally used in my life, in my creative work, right? So, and being like, kind of like my brain was already going that direction. Like, you got to think critically about this. Like, is that for real? Is that advertisement really, like, does that woman really have long legs like that and those big breasts? Like, can you literally stand up with a Barbie waist? Like, no, you can't. And so, like, and then doing away with all that and spending all this time with my children in nature and on the river, and like pulling them out of that pop culture constantly. Like, it doesn't have to be said. It doesn't have to be, like a concept unpacked. You literally have them experience something else, and they will look at this stuff and say, that's not congruent with what I feel when I feel the best. When I go to that belief that I'm being told in an advertisement or like whatever that might be, I don't actually feel good. I'm doing things that aren't, so they become more aware of themselves. And this is really, as parents, is what we want. We don't want them to become, Johnny's gonna be a dentist because I told him to, and that's like neat and tidy in my expectation, right, of his life. I mean, that for one thing, like, would you want I always try it on. Would you want someone to do that to you? Do you want someone to dictate what your future is going to be because you feel safer if they do that? No, hell no. Like, I want my kids to be hyper creative. And if they aren't, I want to figure out what is making them feel like they can't. And so it's more like unearthing, helping them to unearth stuff rather than telling them what it should be, even though we feel like it is something that is beneficial to them. It will lead them to this. So, and then that's another thing, is a broader sense of our culture, right? So what is our culture teaching them in the broader sense, and how do we create a new one I love this. Michael Meade said this, and this is definitely from him. He said we are surrounded by olders, but not elders. We want to be mentors, and we want to be, like I said, we were talking about stewardship in that title of that piece, like that workshop that I want to do with parents, and become elders. And so, like, that's taking back our culture, I guess. I mean, it's not like it was ever stolen. Maybe we forgot. Maybe we gave it away. I mean, literally, it is a choice. It's a choice to move from one thing to the other. Maybe we were never taught, so we remember. Like it's like, oh, this existed, and looking at all these other ways to connect with our kids rather than disconnect. We want to explore, things with them rather than tell them what they can't do. Like, again, it's like, I remember looking at a poster in this Montessori classroom, and it had this child on the poster, and it said, "Don't touch," with a question mark, but that's how I learn. It was so significant to me when I walked into that classroom, and there were 30 kids in there, and there was literally like ting, 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 like little bit of sounds. And, it was because they were all there for a purpose. And their purpose wasn't to pretend to make me tea. This 4-year-old made me tea. I was like, what? A 4-year-old just made me tea with boiling hot water. And I was like, at that moment, I got it. Like, at that moment, I had this significant shift, and there was no way I was going to cut that circle out for my child ever again. Ever. If that was going to be an oval, because they were learning how to use the scissors, then God damn it was going to be an oval. Right? I would never do that again. Never. Yeah.
And what does all this have to do with health? Like
everything.
It isn't that just a silly little word we've been throwing around too? There's, it's not health that we're talking about here, but for the purpose of, communicating with this audience that I invited to sit here with us, I would like to have a series of these conversations with you. I would like people to chime in or listen in and participate if they want to through the comments and things. But I love these conversations so much that we have. I have conversations with other friends, of course, but because you've created this platform and you've spent how many years creating this project that how long?
I don't know. I mean, how do we, again, it's like the continuum. It's a lifetime. Like it's literally how I live.
The thought. Yeah.
I'm passionate about it. Like if I wake up and I'm like, I'll say, yesterday, for example, I was like, I did not get done all these recordings I wanted to do, blah, 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 all these different things. And it was like, did I work or not? I practiced yoga. I went for my hour walk. I did all my soundscapes. I enjoyed my day. I spent some time just literally sitting there going, looking, I finished my supper, made my own, I looked out at the little forest we've got beside us, beside our house. Like I spent a lot of idle time. I've listened to 3 different podcasts. I love doing that when I'm walking or if I'm just, I don't know, cleaning up or whatever I'm doing. And I didn't have this dedicated, you and I, we had a meeting. Okay. So that was 2 hours in the morning. And then we had, then I had some stuff that I would consider work, but I literally, I don't even know, we need a better way to say work because I did so much of that went into my programs, because this is what I do. I'm like, okay, how am I going to share it? Oh, I learned this. How am I going to share it? Oh, I learned this. How am I going to share it? Constantly,
right.
my mind is working in that way. So I've been working on all of this throughout every minute of every day. I even dream. I wake up, I compose music in my sleep. I wake up with a poem in my head. I jump out of the shower and write stuff down. It's when you live unbridled, I guess, with your thoughts and with what you should be thinking about, what you should be doing, and all those shoulds, you go quit shoulding all over yourself, because that's it's the worst thing. If we allow that casing to keep bogging us down, then we say our work is different than our lives, right? But if we don't do that, we see how much of every single moment of every day informs you, elevates you, evolves you, allows you to just live fully and just full on and excited, and it doesn't, some days I'm not as excited about as others, but I kind of am, because I'm wow, what is this? I'm curious, rather than, so it's this shift of expectation into curiosity, right? Or possibility, right? I don't want to expect something. And this is another thing that I've had to come to terms with and start coaching my clients into this, especially the ones that come to me with their kids have a diagnosis. At first, they want to hear me say, this is what to expect. You're going to expect this symptom to go away and this disease to be dropped off the chart. And it's like, that's not the way we could go about it without like setting ourselves up for disaster. We want to be excited about the possibility. You know, we want to be like, okay, let's dig in. Let's see the best we can do for this kiddo. And I'm excited to see what transpires, right? So there's so many. I mean, we could go on, like you said, we could do like lots of different talks, unpacking some more of this stuff.
And we're
For sure, and
gonna.
I'd be really, really happy to do that.
And that's what you do. So like, let me say, like an entry level sort of interaction with you would be an interview with actually myself or you,
Sure.
just to talk more about, your various experiences that you have for people, which are, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, for the mom or dad who wants to learn, unpack. Here, you do the thing. You're like better at it than me.
No, I like it. I love it because I want to know how you understand that, because
So that's true. That's true. So
right, because like, yeah.
Sometimes I just get a little nervous with, with my audience, but you're going to help people unpack the way that they currently think about health and wellness with their medical models and such. And it's really so much about it. Like, it's hard to find the words because a lot of these people that are going to come to you don't even know what they don't know. So to even talk about it is if they do, like, what words do we use? So we use the words that they are familiar with. We talk about viruses and germs, and we talk about diagnoses, and so we'll use that, and we'll say, we'll talk about it like the way that they understand it, and then we unpack it so that we dissolve the current understanding of things like that. But throughout your programs, throughout your coaching, what you do is you can continue to help expand awareness around human, like, holistic health. Everything we just talked about, basically. Like, this is what it feels like to talk about how we're all connected, how we're connected to our environment. There's much to cover. Even us sitting here, like, we're going to limit this conversation because you and I both know that sitting in front of a screen isn't good for our brainwaves. Right. But it's been a lot of good for my emotional well-being. But I'm going to get a headache in a little while if So, like, that's something that you would probably translate to somebody. Saying, have you thought about your screen time? Because you might be trying to binge on a lot of information about health, but that in itself is creating maybe emotional weight on you, which is creating this whole domino effect. So just highlighting some things that people might not be aware of. But I think I'm going to use the word caterate. In order for our community to understand health and wellness better, we need to caterate. That means, like, pan out and lop off these branches that support these other branches of beliefs. So we've got all these beliefs that are attached to this main belief here. But if we caterate backward, we pan out and we start pruning back the beliefs that support all these other misbeliefs, then we can start talking and using different language and so on and so forth. So, like, for example, if we think that pasteurization is such a great thing and it kills germs, and we think that killing germs is a great thing, but we have to back up and say, okay, wait, the word pasteurization came from this guy whose name is Pasteur. And you boil something and you can can it and it stays on your shelf for a while. Like, okay, but that's the reason why they did that, is so they could put the milk on the shelf for a while until you buy it. Obviously you don't want things to be growing in there. That would be gross. But that doesn't mean you can't drink raw milk right out of the cow and get all these other multiple benefits from it. So if we just look at how our food is produced at such a massive scale, and that's why these things are added to it, these colors are added to it. And we can be thankful that it's so accessible, but we have to pay attention to how it's becoming more and more processed and worse for us. And so
Yeah.
we are doing less and less at home to create a superior food product in our community or at home.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that would actually be talked about, I can imagine, in the program.
For sure. For sure. And we do, and again, so we don't get bogged, because this is what we do. We can get really bogged down by all the details, and we can actually get afraid of, like, or like pissed off, like, oh, really? Our food is bastardized like that? Like, I actually was talking to a client last week, and she thought she bought an orchard in this most beautiful place, and they wanted to, plant all these lavender plants and make oils from it and all this stuff. And then they get there, and they're there for a bit, and then what's happening around them is that they're being, like, all the orchards around them are being sprayed 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
A day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? And then so they're like, but okay, so we look at that. Yeah, we want to be aware, but then we go, okay, but how do we simplify this? First, we have practices and things we can do and all this stuff. But how do we simplify it? Literally, when you talk about food, we eat the rainbow, we shop the perimeter, we buy ethical and local. There's really just literally a handful of food rules, and you don't have to worry about all those other things all the time. You don't have to feel at the mercy of all those other things all the time. And sometimes it's a process. Sometimes it might take you a while. You go, okay, well, first best I can do is shop at the farmer's market, and then next best thing I can do is, like, the ideal, like, we have this aim, not a goal, because it's not a final thing. It's not a judgment if you don't get there. We have, like, an aim, we aim for this, like, okay, I would be great if I could garden and grow my own food supply, but maybe it's not realistic for you. You live in an apartment, but I can grow a few things on my patio. I can, how do we do that? We empower ourselves by having knowledge, but also the experience, and also simplifying it, saying, okay, I'm just going to eat whole foods, period. I'm just eating whole foods, period. Then if you want to, well, okay, I'm listening to my body now. And this is one of the first steps I take people through. Listen, be aware of how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you relate to the world, all that stuff. So this is why we go through all those shifting things, because when I say one thing to you, Lori, one of my shifts, it'll literally catalyze undoing all of it. Okay, we can unpack it, or we can undo it. Like, those are 2 different processes, but they both happen. And so, so when we say shift from expectation into possibility, like, that goes, and you literally, some people can have, like, such a sense of relief that they let go of the medical model, even without having been told, this is what the pill for nil, like, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't, it's not longevity. It's highly unsustainable. It doesn't give you it dumbs the body down, all that stuff. But literally, if you say expectation to possibility, that could actually help to unravel all that other stuff. You're not cajoling, you're not convincing, you're literally shining a light. And this is what I say all the time that I'm doing. I am shining a light to something that you might not have seen before. But you got it in you. You can understand it. You maybe haven't been taught it formally or something, but I'm shining that light. And then with that realization, that keeps your own motivation going. So I'm not pushing you. I don't have to do that. I don't have to do any of that. And you also know that you don't have to know everything. They're the basics. Return to nature, baby. Return to nature. Nature knows, like, whole foods, eat the rainbow, get good sleep, exercise, have joy, creativity, connection with others. There are little things that we do, right, in my programs that, like, there are practices we do so you can experience it. It's not so that you just learn all this stuff. It's experiential. So it takes, like a constant, like, thinking in that shifting way, and then it just becomes default. We move out of that left brain kind of, like, analytical, taking everything apart, having to understand this and that and the other. And, like, same thing, like learning a piece of music, let's say. Plunk, plink, plink, doesn't sound so good. And then you get to that right brain where you are, like, it's literally natural. It just comes to you. Like, it's like saying be grateful, and you're like, I'm trying. But if you haven't had the experience of being grateful, you can't force yourself to do that. You literally have to, like, you can pick it apart. Why do I not feel grateful? La 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 la. You're like in that left brain, and then the practice of it. You have like, that's why you have practices. I love them, actually. I don't think it's a crutch, but the purpose is not to have to keep doing them every day so that you feel grateful. The purpose is so that you automatically feel grateful every day. Like, you just do it and you don't have to think about it anymore. So yeah, we go through that process, left to right, and we use the shifts to actually get you from the left to the right, and the practices that are super breathe, be still, like, like sound therapy, things like that are really simple, and they work on the global level, like literally globally on every part. I don't care if you have what kind of diagnosis you have or what kind of prognosis you have. That is irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant. We might start there and say, this is what I'm identifying with, and then we go, well, bye. Like, we don't identify with that anymore. That's irrelevant. That's something someone told me to categorize whatever I'm experiencing. But what I want to know is, what are you experiencing? And then how do we move through that and support your body and your mind and your spirit, to, like, go through that upgrade, baby, because that's what that is. That's your hero's journey. That's your upgrade. Like, let's support you through that upgrade. And it ain't going to be always that much fun. Like, climbing a mountain kind of hurts sometimes. You get your muscles get sore, blah, blah, blah. But you come up there, and that, when you get to that pinnacle, every single time you get through one of those journeys, you're that much, I don't know if the word is better. I don't know. You're that much more into, like, seeing your genius, what you can do, that possibility. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. Good stuff. So do you want to do this again?
Are you still awake?
Yeah, I don't know. No, it's good. I'm just listening. It's good. Because I want to be able to, like, bring everything home in a way that people understand that I wanted to have this conversation just to have it. And then, like, why not mention the fact that at healthyfamilyformula.com is where they can see, like, your listings. Also, Carla Atherton Inspired.com. This is going to be on YouTube. The link that our watchers clicked may or may not have been a YouTube link. I don't know, but you'll be able to put information below, right?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be doing that. Yeah, all the information will be there.
So yeah, I'd like to just go ahead and assume that we're going to do this next week. Again. Okay.
Well, we'll try. It ain't going to be on a Sunday. No way, man. Okay, so, like, sacred, like, Saturdays and Sundays no-go. So we will definitely do it again, next week, and
I'm flexible.
It's going to be great. Yeah, we'll keep unpacking.
I've got one of those jobs that I work for myself, so I'm pretty flexible. All right, Carla. All right, this has been great. Love talking to you.
Yes, thanks, Lori, for giving me that opportunity to unpack some of that stuff for people. It's really good. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Health empowerment is available to anyone who is seeking. If you are willing to turn 180 degrees from the health model taught in school, visit carlaathertoninspired.com and healthyfamilyformula.com.